The polygamous with there is they won't allow you to express yourself because everything has to be controlled.
Hey guys, welcome to my channel. It's Rachel. I'm just so excited because Sister Wives season 20, or is it 19? For real, who's keeping track anymore, is finally off the books. But let's be real, it did kind of fizzle out with a thud. It wasn't so much the jaw-dropping finale that we could have ever dreamed of, but this latter part of the tell-all did contain some moments that were just memorable to me. Moments that were sort of somewhat different, and, quite frankly, a breath of fresh air. Who do I most admire? Christine's husband, David. David stands out because he has actual world experience with polygamy. His two older sisters actually lived that way, and because of it, he knows exactly what goes on in these groups. He knows firsthand, and if you do know about his sisters, they were with a polygamist group in Mexico, just across the border. It wasn't the same community Christine's family was with, not the LeBaron community, but still deeply embedded in polygamy culture. So David? He's not a dumb guy. He knows what the men in polygamy really do. And what I believe was amazing about it was that while Suki, our tell-all host, seemed to be dancing around the issue, kind of attempting to sugarcoat the edges, attempting to remain neutral-ish a little bit, basically as if she's defending the Sister Wives brand and trying to keep the show on the air, she kept framing it in terms of, is this just a Kody thing? Or is this just the way polygamy is? Do the men simply wish to appear good? Or is that just this fellow? And David? He did not play it like that. He went straight for the jugular. He said, no. It's not that men in general want to look good. It's about men who are polygamists intentionally treating women badly in an effort to cause them to fight and take care of one another. Because that is what the men are seeking. They delight when the women fight. And that right there, that honesty, that's why I respect David so much. He's not going to just sit there and prevaricate about what we've watched all these years was business as usual. He's not here to gloss over Kody's behavior, or justify it, or even enable the possibility that Kody had legitimate reasons for the way he treated his wives. David made it crystal clear. In these communities, women aren't allowed to feel. They're not allowed to express themselves, they just have to stuff it all down. And the men? They thrive off of that. They get power and control from women silencing themselves. And I'm sitting here like, finally, someone is saying it. No pandering to Kody, no protecting his ego, no making excuses. David was right. Kody loved it. Kody was turned on by it. Kody lived for the power. He loved being worshipped. He loved having women fight over him. And the women? Those are the ones who are traumatized. David said that his own sister is ruined by it. And seriously, that's an understatement. Because women who survive these systems, they are so traumatized. So many have survived SA, physical DV, and severe psychological manipulation. They've lived in high control groups for years, so when they finally leave, they're then often completely unprepared to survive outside. And healing? It's no miracle cure. It takes years to unravel all that abuse. So I was thrilled finally to see some counterpoint, someone calling it like it is. And guess what? Kody demonstrated David's point to perfection. Even after the women left, Kody's still out here acting like they are in competition with each other. He actually said last week that Christine's still jealous of Robin, that Christine's living her life trying to be Robin. Like, that's how he rationalizes everything. He's so sure that every time they say something, it's because they're jealous. He can't possibly think that they're just working through their trauma. No way. In Kody's world, if Christine talks about what occurred to her, it's not truth, it's jealousy. She can't possibly utter the words, I wasn't valued, I wasn't heard. No way. All it tells him is she's still obsessed with Robin. But let's be real, Christine doesn't want to be Robin. She doesn't even want to be around Kody. She left because she was done. She did not want polygamy. She wanted a relationship where she was heard, valued, and understood. And after years of simply having to shut up and go along, Kody proved David's point again. What Kody wants is control and power. If Christine keeps her mouth shut, Kody's secrets stay buried, his betrayals are hidden, his abuse is in the dark. But no, Christine's speaking out. And instead of listening to her, Kody just declares that she's jealous. It's exhausting. And there was more tea. Janelle talked about Kody and Robin's relationship, and she had an, "oh, sweetie, it gets better" moment when she let slip that Kody and Robin had had a longer courtship than the rest of them. And there was so much that they did not share with the other wives, like the way they met, which they kept secret and only eventually shared on the show. Janelle told it as it was. "If I had been with Kody for a year before we were married, I never would have married him." Because that's the thing. After a year, the love bombing stops, the charm ceases to exist, and Janelle said she would have seen Kody for who he really is. And that's what Kody does, and that's what these polygamists do, is they love mom, and they get people tied into relationships really, really fast, so that they don't know who they're marrying, and then after they get married, then the real side of them comes out, and they're like, whoa, I didn't know who this was. And this is exactly what Christine said. She said she had no clue that Kody was so serious. He didn't act that way at all. And then suddenly when they got married, he was so serious. And it was always like very ominous and the joking was gone. She had no clue that she was marrying a guy that was just so serious and intense. Kody tried to lie there and say that Robin and I are always accused that we only wanted each other. And it's just bad commentary on the internet and that we didn't want to do polygamy. But it was so obvious to all of us that watched for all these years that they didn't want to do polygamy. It was obvious that Kody was done with the other women by how he treated them. It was obvious that they for years faked, that they were still in these intimate marriages with each other. It was obvious that he was only showing up for filming and that he lacked any sort of real connection with many of the children and the women. And it was very obvious that Robin felt emboldened and that she had a relationship with Kody that no one else had because she was obviously spending the most time with him. I mean, whenever they spoke about his relationships and how he felt and what was going on, it was always Robin speaking for Kody, right? She was very clear about she was Kody's wife and Kody was her husband. I mean, that was obvious. And so he tried to lie there and say that we didn't see that. And then he finally admits, yeah, maybe we were just in denial. Yes, Kody. No, you were not in denial. You were probably just milking this show for ratings, and you wanted them to all go along with it. I mean, Christine talked about how that was a betrayal to her, because they should have just been honest. It would have saved them all so much heartache if they just would have said something early instead of stringing them along for so many years. But they finally admitted it. We weren't wrong, they just wanted each other. Kody said it. Another part that they talked about was Robin and Kody's conversation, or Kody's admission, where he said that he had sex before he was married. And he had only told Meri and Robin, apparently, and they were asked why Kody wouldn't have told Janelle and Christine. And Janelle and Christine were asked this by Suki. And Janelle actually was pretty clear about why he wouldn't have told them. And I actually agree with her point of view here. I don't think Kody would have wanted to admit this to anyone, quite honestly, because had he admitted that he had been in a sexual relationship prior to marriage, it would have impacted his ability to actually take on more wives. And if he told Meri and they didn't tell the church, that could have impacted him being sealed. He could have gotten reprimanded. He could have been told, you need to repent before you can do this. And then you can get back to being in good standing with our church, with the AUB. Because having sex before marriage is a huge sin in their group, and it's grounds for, nullifying a lot of the relationships. And because he was not honest, it was a betrayal. And so Janelle is right, he wouldn't have admitted it back then, because he would have been ashamed. He wouldn't have wanted to admit it. He would have been so, unable to admit it, because it would mean that he wasn't godly enough. But, he says that Robin brought it out of him because, Robin had sex before marriage because she was married. And obviously Janelle had a sexual partner before they got married. She was married too before Kody. I think the only virgins were probably Christine and Meri that he was with, right? But maybe he just wanted to be cool like Robin because Robin had had sex before marriage. But then think of how he made her do a purity speech. I always thought that was so gross. And she was like, I gave my purity to someone else and he took it and he threw it on the ground. And meanwhile, Kody wasn't pure. Do you remember that? And then there was this whole discussion about Kody and Robin's sex life, which I didn't want to talk about. But then Kody got really testy with Suki, and it was very unusual because he somehow jumped to the end where he was like, we're not talking about my sexuality. Do you remember in the episode where he talked about how he had this person that he had a relationship with, and they had sex, and he felt very guilty about it? And that person was genderless. Do you remember that? He said something like a lover or something. He didn't use a pronoun to describe that person. And so obviously the internet was like, oh my God, is he talking about a man? You guys, I don't know. But because of that, there was that ambiguity. And I didn't even think about it. I didn't consider it. I didn't care, quite honestly. I feel sad for anyone that if they are in a life where they have to shelter themselves and they are not able to express how they feel in an open way, whether they're heterosexual or homosexual or pansexual or bisexual or whatever that is, if they're not able to be open, whether it's because of their dogma, their shame or guilt or fear, he immediately jumps to when Zuki wants to talk to him about Mormon naughtiness, meaning he was having intimate experiences with people, whether it was everything but sex, and she just wanted to expound on the more of a naughtiness side of it, and he immediately is like, I'm not talking about my sexuality. I gave you a little bit there and that's it. And I just opened the door and I was a little bit generous and now this is bad. Why did he immediately assume that she was going to ask him about his sexuality? He is so sensitive about his sexuality there. And she wasn't even going to ask him about sexuality. Kody claims to be straight heterosexual. That's his sexuality. That's who he's attracted to. Why would he assume that Suki was immediately going to jump to talking about him, having sex with other men, unless we didn't know about something? I mean, I don't even care. But why would he get so defensive about talking about sexuality? He's the one that brought it up. She didn't even bring it up. Did I miss something? So then there was this discussion about if Kody's anger doesn't get in check, will Robin leave him? And Robin then kind of dismisses this whole conversation by saying that Kody's getting better. But Kody almost has one foot out the door and he's like, yes, she will leave me if I don't get better. But if we break up, she will speak nicely of me because we are good friends and we will never be mean to each other and we will never say bad things about each other. And I'm like, did you watch what Robin did with her ex-husband and how she talked about him and what she said about him? Do you remember how she basically called him a rapist when he wasn't? Do you remember how she basically said he was hurting her in DV when it didn't happen? Do you remember that? Oh, Kody and Robin, of course, dismissed this, but this part of the tell all was very interesting to me because David called out Kody for who he was, and he showed Kody for who he was, and Kody responded to show David who he was someone that ruins women and hurts them and abuses them. Kody's bragging about being sexually experienced. E got him caught up in a conversation where he was reminded that his behavior would have been condemned in his church by Chris, by Janelle, and then questions about his experiences with other people got Kody very upset to the extent that he starts throwing daggers about his own sexuality and how he's not going to answer questions about his sexuality. Again, I ask, did we miss something, Kody? But truthfully, Kody showed us who he was a liar, a person that hurts people, and I'm just finally glad to see someone call him out. So what are your thoughts about this part of the tell? All tell me in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed. And please do me a favor by clicking the bell. And thank you all so much for watching. Bye, besties.